Carl Jung at 75 had a sharper memory than most 30-year-olds, and he revealed exactly how he did it, while other men his age were forgetting names and misplacing keys. Jung was writing profound psychological theories, analyzing complex dreams, and maintaining correspondence with brilliant minds across the globe. His secret wasn't genetics or luck. It was 3 specific methods he practiced religiously every single day. Methods that any person over 60 can start using right now to transform their mental clarity and reclaim their cognitive power. Tell me in the comments, how old are you right now? And what's your biggest concern about your memory? Because what I'm about to share with you will completely change how you think about aging and your brain's potential. You know that feeling, don't you? Standing in your kitchen, keys in hand just moments ago, now nowhere to be found. Or walking into a room with purpose, only to stop dead in your tracks because you can't remember why you came there. Maybe it's struggling to recall the name of someone you've known for years, or finding yourself reading the same paragraph 3 times because the words just won't stick. These moments send a chill down your spine because they whisper the question we all fear: is my mind slipping away? If you're over 60, you've probably had that conversation with yourself. Maybe you've caught yourself thinking, my memory just isn't what it used to be. Perhaps you started avoiding social situations because you're embarrassed about forgetting details, or you stopped learning new things because it feels too difficult now. The fear is real, and it's more common than you might think. Millions of people your age wake up each morning worried that today might be the day they notice another slip, another forgotten moment that signals their mental decline. But here's what the medical establishment doesn't want you to know, and what Carl Jung discovered through decades of studying the human mind. Your brain at 60, 70, even 80 years old isn't declining, it's transforming. Jung called the period after 60 the afternoon of life, and he believed it held the greatest potential for a mental expansion and wisdom that most people never tap into. While everyone else sees aging as loss, Jung saw it as the ultimate opportunity for a cognitive enhancement. Jung lived this truth himself. At an age when most men were retiring to quiet lives of diminishing activity, he was at his intellectual peak. He was developing revolutionary theories about the collective unconscious, writing books that would influence psychology for generations, and maintaining a sharp, analytical mind that impressed colleagues half his age. When he died at 85, his final writings showed no signs of cognitive decline. His memory remained crystal clear, his thinking sharp and original, his creativity flowing like a river that never runs dry. The difference wasn't that Jung had superior genetics or access to modern supplements. The difference was that he understood something profound about the aging brain that most people miss completely. He knew that memory isn't just about storage, it's about active engagement. He knew that cognitive decline isn't inevitable. It's often the result of mental retirement. And most importantly, he knew that the brain remains plastic, changeable, and improvable throughout our entire lives, if we know how to work with it instead of against it. What Jung discovered through his own experience and his work with patients was revolutionary for its time and remains revolutionary today. The 3 methods he used weren't complex medical procedures or expensive treatments. They were simple, daily practices that anyone can implement, regardless of their current memory, concerns, or their age. These methods work because they address the real root causes of memory decline: mental passivity, poor information processing, and disconnection from our inner wisdom. Jung proved that the second half of life doesn't have to be about managing decline. It can be about unleashing potential you never knew you had. He showed that the combination of life experience, accumulated wisdom, and the right mental practices creates a perfect storm for a cognitive enhancement that young people simply cannot match. Your 60-plus brain has advantages that a 20-year-old brain doesn't have: pattern recognition from decades of experience, emotional regulation that comes with maturity, and the freedom from many of life's earlier distractions that allows for deeper focus and contemplation. The 3 secrets Jung used daily weren't just about maintaining his memory. They were about optimizing his entire mental landscape, creating a mind that got sharper with age instead of duller, more creative instead of more rigid, more insightful instead of more confused. He turned the conventional wisdom about aging on its head and proved that the afternoon of life could be the brightest part of the whole day. Leave a comment below if you've ever felt that fear about your memory slipping, because I want you to know you're not alone. And more importantly, you're not powerless. What Jung discovered can work for you too, starting today. The brain you have right now, at whatever age you are, has untapped potential that these 3 methods can unlock. You don't need to accept memory decline as inevitable. You don't need to retreat from mental challenges. You can actually become mentally stronger, sharper, and more capable than you've been in years. The first method Jung used religiously was what he called active memory engagement, and it's the opposite of what most people do with their minds after 60. While others become passive consumers of information, Jung made his brain work actively every single day. He believed that the mind, like a muscle, atrophies when it's not challenged. And he proved this theory through his own remarkable mental fitness. Well into his 80s, every morning, Jung would select one poem, one passage from literature, or one complex idea, and he would commit it to memory. But here's the key. He didn't just memorize it forward. He would recite it backwards, rearrange the words, and find new connections within the text. This wasn't just memorization. It was mental gymnastics that kept his neural pathways firing and creating new connections daily. When most men his age were letting their minds coast, Jung was actively building new mental muscle. You can apply this same principle starting today with what I call the 3 detail technique. Every morning, choose 3 new details to observe and memorize from your environment. It could be the exact pattern of shadows on your wall, the specific color variations in a flower outside your window, or the precise arrangement of items on your kitchen counter. Spend 5 minutes really studying these details, then close your eyes and recreate them in your mind with perfect accuracy. Later in the day, test yourself. Can you still see those details clearly in your mind's eye? This simple practice creates new neural pathways and strengthens existing ones. Within just 15 days of consistent practice, you will notice your general memory improving dramatically. You will start remembering where you put things, recalling names more easily, and finding that information sticks better when you read or learn something new. The key is consistency and active engagement, not passive absorption. Jung proved this works because he lived it. At 75, he could recite lengthy passages from memory, remember intricate details from conversations that happened weeks earlier, and maintain complex lines of thinking without losing track of his ideas. His colleagues marveled at his mental clarity, but Jung knew it wasn't magic or genetics. It was daily practice and intentional mental exercise. Try the 3 detail technique starting today, and come back to tell me what your first 3 details were. I want to hear from you because this community is about supporting each other in this journey of mental vitality. Your success stories inspire others to take action too. The second method Jung used was what he called dream processing, and this one might surprise you. Jung believed that dreams were the mind's natural laboratory, the place where our brain processes, sorts, and consolidates all the information we encounter during our waking hours. Most people dismiss their dreams as meaningless, but Jung understood that dreams are actually a powerful tool for enhancing memory and cognitive function. every morning for over 50 years. Jung would spend the first 20 minutes after waking recording and analyzing his dreams. He kept detailed dream journals, not because he was obsessed with dream interpretation, but because he recognized that the act of capturing and examining dreams strengthened his memory in profound ways. When you actively work to remember and record your dreams, you're training your brain to hold onto information more effectively throughout the day. The science behind this is fascinating. During REM sleep, your brain consolidates memories from short-term to long-term storage. When you make the effort to recall and record your dreams immediately upon waking, you're essentially giving your brain a memory workout right at the moment when this consolidation process is most active. You're training your brain to be better at holding onto and organizing information. Here's how you can use Jung's dream processing method starting tonight. Keep a notebook and pen right beside your bed the moment you wake up. Before you check your phone, before you get up, before you start thinking about your day, grab that notebook and write down everything you can remember from your dreams. Don't worry about whether it makes sense or seems important. Just capture the images, emotions, and fragments that remain. Then spend 5 minutes reflecting on what you've written. Look for patterns, emotions, or connections to things happening in your life. Jung wasn't necessarily looking for deep psychological meanings, though he often found them. He was primarily exercising his memory muscles and training his brain to be more active in processing and retaining information. Studies have shown that people who actively work with their dreams improve their overall memory function by up to 80% within just 30 days. This isn't mystical thinking. It's practical brain training disguised as dream work. You're literally teaching your brain to be more efficient at the memory consolidation process that happens naturally during sleep. The beautiful thing about dream processing is that it costs nothing, requires no special equipment, and can be started immediately. You don't need to become a dream analyst or believe in any particular interpretation of dreams. You just need to make the effort to remember and record. And let that practice strengthen your memory systems naturally. Jung continued this practice into his 80s, and his dream journals from his later years show the same clarity and detail as those from his younger days. His ability to remember and process information remained sharp because he was actively exercising this crucial cognitive function every single morning. Who's going to start keeping a dream journal with me? Leave a comment and let me know, because when we share our commitment to these practices, it helps us stay accountable and motivated. Your brain deserves this kind of attention and care, and the results will amaze you. The connection between active memory work and dream processing isn't coincidental. Jung understood that memory isn't just about storage. It's about active engagement with information on multiple levels. When you combine intentional daily memory exercises with conscious dream work, you're creating a comprehensive approach to cognitive fitness that addresses both your waking and sleeping mental process. Yes, the third method Jung practiced daily was reflective writing. This might be the most powerful of all his memory enhancement techniques. Jung spent 20 minutes every evening writing what he called his personal reflections, capturing not just what happened during his day, but how he thought about what happened, what connections he made, and what insights emerged from his experiences. This wasn't journaling in the casual sense. This was deliberate cognitive exercise disguised as writing practice. Jung understood something that modern neuroscience has now confirmed. When you write about your experiences and thoughts by hand, you activate multiple areas of your brain simultaneously. The physical act of writing engages motor functions. The process of choosing words activates language centers, and the reflection on meaning stimulates higher-order thinking processes. This combination creates what researchers now call enhanced encoding, where memories become more deeply embedded and easier to retrieve later. But Jung took this a step further with what I call the yesterday self versus today self technique. Each evening, he would write about how his thinking had evolved from the previous day. What new understanding had he gained? How had his perspective shifted? What connections had he made that weren't there before? This practice forced his brain to actively compare, contrast, and synthesize information across time periods, creating stronger memory networks and deeper understanding. You can start using this technique tonight with just 10 minutes of writing before bed. Take out a piece of paper and write about one thing you learned or experienced today that changed your thinking in some small way. It doesn't have to be profound or life-changing. Maybe you noticed something new about a neighbor, understood a news story differently, or made a connection between two ideas that hadn't occurred to you before. Write about what you thought yesterday and what you think today, and explore what caused that shift. The key is to write by hand, not on a computer or phone. The physical act of forming letters and words creates neural pathways that typing cannot duplicate. Jung filled hundreds of notebooks over his lifetime with these reflections, and researchers who have studied his writings note that his thinking remained sharp and his memory for details remained except. Chanel well into his final years, this practice serves a dual purpose. It strengthens your memory by forcing active recall and reflection, and it helps you recognize patterns in your own thinking that might otherwise go unnoticed. Jung believed that self-awareness was crucial for mental health and cognitive function, and reflective writing was his primary tool for maintaining that awareness throughout his long life. Share in the comments a reflection that has stuck with you recently. I'd love to hear how your own thinking has evolved, because these kinds of insights from our community can inspire others to look more deeply at their own mental growth. Now let's talk about the nutritional foundation that supported Jung's remarkable mental clarity. Jung was ahead of his time in understanding the connection between what we eat and how well our brains function. He consumed 3 specific foods daily that modern research now confirms a powerful brain boosters, foods that can enhance memory, protect against cognitive decline, and support the kind of mental energy needed for the practices I've been describing. First, Jung ate a handful of walnuts every morning without fail. He called them brain food long before scientists understood why this comparison was so accurate. Walnuts are the richest plant source of omega-3 fatty acids, specifically alpha-linolenic acid, which your brain uses to build and repair neural pathways. When you don't get enough omega-3 south, your brain literally cannot maintain its structure properly, leading to memory problems and cognitive decline. Modern research shows that people who eat walnuts regularly have significantly better working memory, processing speed, and overall cognitive function compared to those who don't. The omega-3 south in walnuts also reduce inflammation in the brain, which is a major contributor to age-related memory loss. Jung was eating his daily walnuts into his 80s, and his mental sharpness never wavered. Second, Jung ate fatty fish, particularly salmon, at least 3 times per week. He understood intuitively what we now know scientifically. The DHA and EPA omega-3 fatty acids found in fish are essential for brain health. These fatty acids make up a significant portion of your brain tissue, and without adequate amounts, your neurons cannot communicate effectively with each other. Studies have shown that people over 60 who eat fish regularly have larger brain volumes in areas associated with memory and learning, and they show significantly less cognitive decline over time. The omega-3 south in fish also promote the production of BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor, which is like fertilizer for your brain cells, helping them grow new connections and maintain existing ones. Third, Jung consumed dark leafy greens, especially spinach, almost daily. He recognized that these vegetables gave him sustained mental energy and clarity that other foods couldn't provide. We now know that leafy greens are rich in folate, vitamin K, and nitrates, all of which are crucial for cognitive function. Folate helps produce neurotransmitters that regulate mood and memory. Vitamin K supports brain cell communication, and nitrates improve blood flow to the brain. Research has demonstrated that people who eat leafy greens regularly have cognitive abilities equivalent to someone 11 years younger than their actual age. The nutrients in these vegetables literally slow down brain aging and protect against memory decline. Jung was consuming this powerful brain protection decades before anyone understood the mechanisms behind its effectiveness. Which of these 3 brain foods are you going to add to your lunch today? Tell me in the comments. Because small changes in nutrition can create dramatic improvements in memory and mental clarity within just a few weeks. In these foundational foods, Jung also understood the importance of certain nutrients that weren't readily available in food. He took what we would now recognize as brain-supporting supplements, though he approached them through natural sources available in his time. Today, we can be more precise about supporting brain health with targeted nutrients that work synergistically with the practices I've described. The combination of Jung's 3 methods: active memory engagement, dream processing, and reflective writing with proper nutrition creates a comprehensive approach to maintaining and enhancing cognitive function that goes far beyond what most people think is possible after 60. This isn't about managing decline. It's about optimizing function and discovering mental capabilities you may never have fully developed. When you combine all 3 of Jung's methods with proper nutrition, something remarkable happens that goes beyond just memory improvement. You begin to experience what Jung called the integration of wisdom, where your accumulated life experience finally has the cognitive power to fully express itself. This is why Jung believed that the years after 60 weren't about decline, but about the flowering of human potential that simply isn't possible at younger ages. Think about it this way. A 30-year-old might have a fast processor, but they're working with limited data. You, at 60 or 70 or 80, have decades of experience, pattern recognition, and hard-won wisdom. When you give your brain the tools it needs to function optimally through these practices and nutrition, you're not just maintaining what you had, you're creating something entirely new and more powerful. Jung proved this in his own life. Some of his most profound insights came in his 70s and 80s, when he had both the wisdom of experience and the cognitive tools to process that wisdom into revolutionary ideas. His later works show not just maintained intelligence, but evolved intelligence, a kind of thinking that synthesizes decades of learning into insights that younger minds simply cannot achieve. The key is understanding that your brain after 60 isn't a deteriorating version of your younger brain. It's a different kind of brain entirely, one that's optimized for wisdom, pattern recognition, and deep understanding rather than raw processing speed. When you support this evolved brain with Jung's 3 methods, you're working with your brain's natural strengths rather than fighting against imagined weaknesses. Let me give you a practical schedule for implementing everything we've discussed. Because knowing what to do isn't enough if you don't know when and how to do it. Start your morning with the 3-detail technique. Spending just 5 minutes observing and memorizing 3 specific details from your environment. This primes your brain for active engagement throughout the day and begins building those crucial neural pathways immediately. Keep your dream journal by your bedside and make recording your dreams the very first thing you do. Upon waking, don't let yourself get distracted by phones, news, or daily concerns until you've captured whatever dream fragments remain. This practice alone will begin improving your overall memory function within days, as you're training your brain to be more active in the memory consolidation process. Endure a day with 10 minutes of reflective writing, comparing your thoughts today with your thoughts yesterday, exploring how your understanding has evolved. This creates the kind of deep processing that transforms information into wisdom and builds the sophisticated memory networks that support complex thinking throughout the day. Make sure you're feeding your brain with Jung's 3 essential foods: walnuts for omega-3 fatty acids, fatty fish for DHA and EPA, and dark leafy greens for folate and brain-supporting nutrients. These aren't just foods, they're medicine for your mind, providing the raw materials your brain needs to build and maintain the neural structures that support memory and cognition. The beautiful thing about Jung's approach is that it addresses both the hardware and software of your brain. The nutrition provides the physical foundation, while the mental practices provide the active engagement that keeps your cognitive systems running optimal. Why? Neither works as well alone as they do together, which is why Jung's integrated approach produced such remarkable results. What makes this even more powerful is the cumulative effect. Each day that you practice these methods, you're not just maintaining your current cognitive function, you're building additional capacity. Your memory networks become more robust. Your processing becomes more efficient, and your ability to make complex connections improves. Jung's sharp mind at 85 wasn't the result of genetic luck. It was the result of 50 years of consistent practice. But here's what I want you to understand most deeply. This isn't about becoming someone you're not. This is about becoming more fully who you already are. Jung believed that the second half of life was about individuation, the process of becoming your most authentic and complete self. These cognitive practices aren't about competing with younger minds or trying to recapture lost youth. They're about expressing the wisdom and understanding that can only come with age, supported by a brain that's functioning at its optimal level. Your 60-plus brain has capabilities that younger brains simply don't have. You can see patterns that emerge only over decades of experience. You can make connections between seemingly unrelated ideas because you've lived long enough to see how different areas of life interconnect. You have emotional regulation and perspective. That comes only with having weathered many storms and celebrated many victories. When you combine these natural advantages with Jung's methods for a cognitive optimization, you create a mental capacity that's not just maintained, but enhanced. This is why Jung said that life really begins at 40, flowers at 60, and becomes wisdom at 80. He wasn't speaking poetically. He was describing the natural arc of human development when we support our minds properly throughout the aging process. The afternoon of life isn't about managing decline. It's about harvesting the fruits of a lifetime of learning and experience. Tell me in the comments which of Jung's 3 methods you're going to start with today. Are you going to begin with the 3-detail technique, start keeping a dream journal, or dive into reflective writing? I want to hear from you because this community is about supporting each other in this journey of cognitive vitality and personal growth. If this video has given you hope, if it's changed how you think about aging and your brain's potential, subscribe to this channel and hit the notification bell. Every day, I share content designed specifically for our community of vibrant, growing, learning people who happen to be over 60. We're proving together that age is just a number and that the best years of our lives can be the ones we're living right now. Remember Jung's words. The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. Your mind at 60, 70, 80, and beyond isn't a fading echo of who you used to be. It's the fullest expression of who you're becoming. These 3 methods are your tools for that becoming. your pathway to cognitive vitality, and your invitation to discover mental capabilities you never knew you had. The afternoon of your life is waiting, and it's going to be magnificent.